The BBC Production Music Orchestral Toolkit, Installation and Logging. The toolkit is designed so that you can drag and drop audio files directly into your video editor from Finder in OS X or Windows Explorer. However, if you have the choice, we would recommend using it on a Mac so that you can take advantage of the color coding of items and simultaneously view multiple folders and files. We've also included playlists for iTunes so that you can search and audition files using an iPhone or an iPad. However, as you can't drag and drop files directly from iTunes into other programs, we don't recommend using it in your edit. Specific instructions for importing the toolkit into iTunes can be found in folder I. We recommend that if possible, you use the toolkit on a computer with 2 monitors so that you can see your editor and the toolkit simultaneously whilst dragging and dropping your files. On a system with a single monitor, you can resize and arrange your windows to optimize dragging and dropping, but your screen will be more cluttered. For best performance, we also recommend that you copy the entire toolkit onto your hard drive. However, some operating system versions will only display a maximum of 256 characters in their file titles, including the folder path, so it's very important that you don't place the toolkit at the end of a long chain of subfolders. If you exceed this 256 character limit, the file names may be truncated and look like this, and the toolkit will be impossible to use. So we recommend that you place it on your desktop or in a folder path that contains less than 30 characters. Once imported, switch to List View in Finder by clicking on the icon with the horizontal lines or by pressing Command F2 on your keyboard. If you're using Windows, switch to Details View. Now, widen up your first column so that you can see the file names in full and all the information in the titles lines up. And finally, make sure your computer system and software can read audio files at 48K. Otherwise, the files will play back at the wrong speed and pitch and the toolkit won't work. Logging. Please be aware that there are 2 versions of the toolkit. Firstly, there's the full toolkit, which is available on the UPPM website to registered users and also available on a dedicated credit card-sized USB drive. And secondly, there's an album version of the toolkit available online that contains just the full-length tracks and 30-second edits, which you might want to use in the traditional production music manner. For logging purposes, the tracks found on the full toolkit have TK in brackets after their names. Please log the title including the TK when you source the music from the full toolkit. Looking at the file titles, with the exception of duration, all the logging details are in the first chunk of information and should automatically appear in any EDLs you generate. And the same information should also be picked up by metadata readers. First, we have the publisher, BBC Production Music. Next, we still use a CD number even though it's an online and USB product, and in this case it's BBC PM022. Then we have the track number. Please note that even though items may appear in the same section of the toolkit, their track numbers may not always be sequential, due to them being written and added at different times. Now the title. If you have downloaded this item from the cut-down album version, you would simply log it with its one-word track title. If, however, you sourced it from the full online toolkit or the USB drive, you would log the track title followed by TK in brackets. Next, the composers. Andy Blythe and Martin Joustra, or simply Blythe and Joustra. The information that comes after this in the file titles is there to help you navigate the toolkit and select suitable cues, and with the exception of the duration, is not used in the logging process. Please have a look at the layout and labelling video for further information on this. Please log all cues to their full listed duration, unless of course you have manually shortened them. All the logging information is written into metadata embedded into each file. This can be accessed by clicking on Get Info in Finder or iTunes. Automatic metadata readers should also be able to see this information, and it will of course be picked up on any EDLs you generate. Thank you for watching.